Welcome to Heart with Saima, a show where we share stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. This is Saima Dillon, and with me today, I have a wonderful friend of mine, school friend from school, and bringing her on to share her amazing journey. A little bit about Anusheh Hussain. In 1994, Anusheh set up Pakistan's first NGO, focusing exclusively on child sexual abuse and child prostitution. She then moved to India in 2003 and worked with an NGO that was dealing with similar issues but choosing alternative therapies and spiritual wisdom to help heal men, women, and children from abuse. In 2008, she co founded Indigree Angels Trust, a treat on the street NGO for Delhi's street dogs, the first service of its kind. One of her passions is also wildlife photography, with the aim to bring focus on how precious animals are and their role in the ecosystem. And without waiting anymore, I'm going to bring on Anusheh right here. Hello, Anusheh. How are you
Hi,
doing today?
I'm good. Thank you, Saima. How are you?
I'm doing good. We are connecting after a very long time, and I won't say how many decades because that right there will give our age away. So,
Yes,
Anushka, your
sweetheart.
journey has just been amazing. How about I just hand over the screen to you and just give you a couple of minutes to kind of just share what it is that you have been working on and about your NGO. So here goes.
Do you want to know about my current NGO? Or do you
Whatever
want?
you would like to talk about.
Okay, so currently what I do is I love animals. I always loved animals. And when I came to Delhi, I saw that there was just so much suffering on the streets because Delhi, if you don't know this, has a large population. Well, India does, but Delhi also has a large population of animals on the street, the majority of which are dogs. So, it all started off with this one dog within our colony who had given puppies, and at that time I was working with this with the a healing center in Delhi with human beings, and we were sitting here, and she'd given someone had stolen one of her puppies, so she'd started biting people walking past where she'd given birth, and uh, the entire colony where we were living, where I stay with a friend of mine, we had got together to try and get her picked up and put down at the local shelter because they were like, she's biting. She was, we ran out and we picked up all her puppies and brought them into our house and took on the entire, colony for her. And basically, that's how the journey started with that one dog. And then slowly, it became about, well, we looked after her, we had her pups adopted, we ended up keeping two of them. Um, and then our focus started going on all these other dogs within the community, within our own colony, started feeding them, started looking after them, and then realized that it was just taking too slowly. Sort of the work began expanding. We started feeding 11 dogs, then we started feeding 15 dogs. Then they'd get wounds. I didn't know what the hell to do, so pick them up, take them to vets, then began to realize, oh my god, it's taking like 2.5 hours at the vet. We can't go on affording to pay these massive bills. So started learning everything oneself. Got very lucky because I think when you set out to do things, you always end up with angels along the way who just appear to help you. Um, So made this lovely team of vets came in from England, and they took we took umbrage uh, from them, and they taught us more stuff. So ended up becoming, uh, and then I was just moving deeper and deeper into this work, and I decided, you know me and my colleague, we decided we were going to set up this organization, and we were going to do it full time. So currently that's what preoccupies us most of the day. And we've ended up in a place where we feed around 300, 350 dogs daily
Wow.
on the streets of Delhi. Yeah, it's a whole cooking operation. And we also we have one ambulance, so it's not like we can go very long distances, but say within a radius of around 20 kilometers, we look after all the dogs on the street. We
Wow.
respond to emergencies. We then have, of course, our 300 who we look after. So we address everything on the streets, from broken legs to wounds to giving drips. You'll often see a van parked in a market giving a drip to a dog, to injections, vaccinations, deworming, everything under the sun as much as we can. So, unless a dog can absolutely not be on the street, um, we treat there. Because we figured a long time ago that, initially when dogs were getting wounded, etc., we'd pick them up and we'd take them to shelters. And shelters are overcrowded, they're full of disease. And when we would take them, we'd find we've taken a dog for a broken leg and he's come out with distemper or with parvo. And the moral dilemma of that began to really upset us, because we were like, what are we doing? We're trying to help the dog. We take him to the shelter, and 10 days later, they'll call you and tell you, oh, he died of something, else.
Yeah.
And we were like, this is just not okay. So we thought, why put them into a stressful environment like a shelter, where they're put into little cages and there's overcrowding, and the services are not that great.
Yeah.
So we decided to come up with this, treat with community help, make people more aware, involve the community. Because a lot of these are not really feral. These are not feral dogs. They're community dogs largely.
Okay. Okay.
They're dogs who are fed by the occasional, chowkidar. They're dogs who are looked after in slum areas by people. They're dogs even who, are living outside people's houses, and people. There are a lot of people actually in Delhi who look after dogs on the street, as in feed them, or, give them a
Wow.
biscuit, or, are concerned if they're unwell.
Wow.
So uh, that's when we came up with this idea. So now we run a mobile clinic on the street of Delhi.
How brilliant is that? So, let's go back to 2003, when you were in Islamabad, and I know we went to school together in Karachi. And what made you move to Islamabad?
So we went to school together and did our O levels, and
Hmm.
then after that, I that was a very difficult time in my life, because my parents were getting divorced,
Okay.
and so there was a lot of, now it wasn't just any normal kind of a divorce, because uh, we had never heard them even raise their voices with each other. We had
Oh,
never
wow.
seen any strife in the house.
Uh-huh.
We had never seen any conflict. It was all nicely kept away from us. So
Let
they
me
said,
pause you for a real quick second, just as a reality check. Do you feel was that was something that shouldn't have been done? Because a lot of people tend to do that. They tend to keep the reality of everything going on away from the children. Do you think that was a disservice to you? as a child? You should have known what was going on.
I think, I don't know, Saima. I think if you ask a child who's gone through something like that, they will probably tell you, why did they need to put us through that hell?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think if you ask someone like me who didn't see any of that, for me, no, there's a part of me which is very grateful that I didn't have to see that conflict,
Okay.
and go through it. And there's a part of me which feels, well, if I'd known at least that something was happening, it wouldn't have come as such a shock and a surprise, you know. So I don't know if there's any, I think there's a balance that needs to be, parents should talk to you at least,
Yeah.
that it's okay,
Open
this is, there's
communication and
something which is, but those weren't our times, sort of more or less. And I know they were trying to, protect us.
Mhm.
Uh, so it was fine. I mean, in one way, one grew up thinking one was so lucky. It was a wonderful, space, and uh, maybe I'm being grateful for it. I mean,
Yeah.
there was all of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was shocking, and I had quite I'd had experiences of child sexual abuse. Then the in my childhood, the last few years of school became very difficult because all of this started happening within the family.
Mhm.
Uh, my elder sisters got married in the process. They were going off into theirs, they were leaving this Karachi and going off to their respective, uh, with their respective husbands. Me and my younger brother were around. My father at that same time got a job in Lahore and was moving there. So, it wasn't just that the family was going through this, but it was that
Yeah.
the roots were being
Yeah.
nicely dug out.
Yeah.
So that became a really sort of intense and difficult time for me. I found it very difficult to begin to. It's like everything reached a peak
Yeah.
in my
Everything
life.
was just happening at the same time. Lots of
Yeah,
chaos.
lots of chaos and lots of, just feeling like everything that you felt was stable and
Yeah.
rooted in your life was coming
So
apart.
disrupted. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went on a path of, rebellion and somewhat self destruction for a good amount of years, for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then landed up with all of that. And, my mother then left for Lahore. My father was also in Lahore. I mean, they were living there separately. And I didn't want to move to that city. Um, so I ended up going to Islamabad to live with a sister of mine.
Okay.
And so that's how I landed up in Islamabad. And then, as things would have it, the entire family landed up there around me. I mean, the rest of the family, my other sister, my
Mhm.
mother, my father, grandmother, they all eventually turned up over there.
Okay.
So, so then I moved to Islamabad, and I was basically bumming around, not doing much.
Yeah.
Um,
You were getting ready for your future, which
I
you
was
didn't
getting
realize
ready.
at that time.
Yeah. I had no idea I was doing that. I really thought I was going down a very bad road,
Yeah.
actually. But so I was there in Islamabad, and I happened to join in this organization as a volunteer,
Mhm.
which was working with women and children's issues. And that sort of rolled into during that time, I got an opportunity to go. I got chosen for this fellowship in Denmark for working with torture survivors. It was a program. It was called stress tension reduction therapy for torture survivors. It was a very hands-on sort of how to work with people's bodies, people who've experienced torture, because this organization was on domestic violence
Yeah.
and child sexual abuse and looking at all these issues.
Mhm.
So I got sent off for that, and then so this interest began to develop in healing.
Okay.
And then, as things would have it, that organization sort of broke apart,
Hmm.
and I began to, during my time over there, they would run these support groups, and I had my own CSA. Um, and then there was, nearly out of 10 women who'd come into, say, a support group, there would be five or six who would talk about how they were sexually abused as children.
Hmm.
And I just began to feel, God, where are the spaces? Where's the space? Who's talking about this? How are we addressing this in this country? And I just decided at that point that, I was going to do something about this, and I was going to create that kind of a space.
Yeah.
So, but then from there, it began to all be about, training oneself and understanding the issue more deeply, and healing, beginning a journey of self healing also,
Yeah.
to be able to set up an organization to do this. So then that's what I began to focus on. And then, in, by the time I was 24, 25, I don't know, 26, I can't even remember now, it's been too long, but
Yeah.
I set up Sahil, which was Pakistan's first NGO which focused exclusively on child sexual abuse and child prostitution. And because it was, the first of its kind, see, I wanted to make it exclusively on CSA because I thought there's no other way to bring the issue out in
Yeah.
front of people. I could have said, "Oh, I'm going to set it up on child rights," but that wasn't going to cut it. I didn't feel it that would. Felt, it needed to be something which was put in people's faces so that
Yeah.
they had to. Because I don't know
Make
if
them
you're aware.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're aware, but at that time,
Hmm.
no one wanted to speak about it.
Of course.
You
I
know,
mean, even
It-
at this point, hardly anyone wants to speak about this subject.
well, yeah, but in the last 20, 25 years, there has been sort of doing this work over there. There has
Yeah.
been a significant shift now in how it is addressed.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very
Significant,
taboo subject.
yeah. But at that time, there was people used to look at me like I was nuts.
I,
They'd say,
I can imagine.
"What are you talking about?" And
Yeah.
then, of course, there was a lot of direct sort of assault on me also, because it would be like, "Oh, she's unmarried, and look at the issues she's discussing.
Yeah.
She's unmarried and she wants to talk about sexuality.
Yeah.
Where is she getting all of this from?"
Yeah.
All of that.
I mean,
So
in that society, to in 2003, to get up and to talk about, you know,
95, darling.
95, wow, not even 2003, 95, talk about, child sexual abuse and prostitution. And you were talking about, male children,
Male child
male
prostitution.
child prostitution. I mean, these are very strong subjects, that, to be able to talk about these things, and to take a stand and to put this subject in front of people's faces. I mean, that, wow. Hats off
Yeah,
to you, Anushe.
thank you. It was intense, and it was a challenge at many, many levels. But I really, I loved doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I loved taking it on. I loved taking on the fact that, that people, um I love taking on the challenge of making people look at it and
Yes.
acknowledge it.
Uh,
And
we are, we are, we are similar breeds. So So I completely understand not breaking rules, not following the norm, not wanting to do what the whole world says. Why can't you just do something that's normal? You just
Yeah.
don't want to, and I say you I don't know if you realize this or not, but if you wouldn't have gone through that phase of rebellion where, you know, you would not have had the courage to brace something and to face something which is just so taboo and strong. I mean, this to talk about and to hold an organization and to create an organization talking about male child sexual abuse and sexual abuse and prostitution, that just takes in Pakistan a lot of courage. Hats off to you. That's what it was preparing you for.
Yeah, it was, and I just had seemed to have the right personality to do this, I guess. But, Saima, I just did not. When I was setting up Sahil, so many people said to me, there were voices within my family which were like, are you sure you
Yeah.
want to do this? It's going to be very difficult. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
And I truly believed that it wasn't going to be difficult
Yeah.
because I said, I felt, so if so many people, if my sort of assessment through these small groups is right, if so many people have gone through it,
Hmm.
then it's not going to be difficult because everyone will relate. Whether they say out loud that they've gone through it or not, but they will relate and they will want to know more. And to a large extent, that was true. We went the sort of breadth of the nation, working and doing workshops on awareness raising with different kinds of groups, from village, going into villages, to journalists, to um, health workers, to all levels. We addressed all kinds of people, and everywhere we would go, Saima, people were grateful for the information.
Yeah.
They were grateful for the
See,
information.
Anushe, so much of it is your own perspective on how you view things. Do you view things? Do you look at this glass as half empty, or do you look at it as half full?
Absolutely.
So it's your own perspective. It's you who's choosing to see that the glass is half full versus half empty, and that's your perspective on life, and that's how you handle things. That, you know what, it's all good.
Yeah, there's this wonderful saying, I think it's from the Vedas here in India. Uh, तुम्हारी दृष्टि ही तुम्हारी सृष्टि है. It is your perception which decides your world. And that
Wow.
is so very true.
Very powerful.
That is so very true. It's in a nutshell, it's everything. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
It
you
is.
decide.
The way you look at things is what decides your world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very lucky and very blessed to. And then I had a lot of support from,
Yeah.
I had a brother-in-law who was absolutely amazing,
Yeah.
uh, and helped me set it all up and was there as a constant rock of support in my life. Um, and friends who came in and helped, and and then I came across this organization in NGO, and they became such a rock solid support for
Which
me.
organization was that?
uh, Initially they went by the name of Sakshi, and then they became IFSHA,
Okay,
interventions
so
for
you're
people
talking about India. This
in India.
organization is in
Yeah,
India.
which became a big support for my organization. They used to help, come over, help train staff, send.
Now,
I'd
which
bring staff.
organization are you talking about? Are you talking
Sexual
about
abuse.
Sahil or
Sahil.
okay,
It's still on
you are
Sahil.
talking.
Yeah.
So what role did you move? So you moved to India in 2003.
Yeah.
Okay, so what role did India play in the work that you were doing in Pakistan? And of course, now you have become an Indian citizen, and you've been living in India for a very long time, and
Yeah, 17 years,
17
18
years.
years.
That's a very long time. So, what role did India play in kind of enhancing your work and what you had started in Pakistan? Because your organization is there, mashallah, now what Sahil has been there all over 2 decades, right?
Yeah. So my brother-in-law was a management guru,
Hmm.
and he well, when I'd set up Sahil, he said to me, "So how long are you going to be doing it for?" So I said, "Harvard bhai, I've just set it up. You're already asking me when I'm going to be leaving it." He said, "Look, if you want to do something successfully, then you must have in your idea, in your head, you must have a timeline that I'm going to do this for so many years, and by that time, I'm going to have achieved this, and then I'm going to let someone else come in and breathe new life into the organization and take it to the next level." He said, "If you want a successful organization, you must always know what your cutoff date is."
Yeah.
And he said, with someone like you, I don't see you, doing this for the rest of your life. I know you'll also want to move in on. You'll keep wanting to move on to different things. Anyway, at that time, I was like, I really trusted him and I thought, okay, anything he says is absolutely right as far as I'm concerned. So um, I told him, I said, fine, 10 years. He said, no, that's too long. So I said, okay,
Why did you ask me?
5 years.
आप ही बता दे.
I said, okay, 5 years. I'm going to give it my best for 5 years and then
Hmm.
I'm going to revisit it. So that's what I started off with feeling. It was intense work. We had so much happen to us, in those. I ended up there actually for 7 years, but we had so much happen to us. We had we got into this research. I told you instantly almost when I started. We began to hear about this area out on the outskirts of Islamabad where there was organized male child prostitution.
Tell us
Um,
more. I mean, well, that just sounds like this most crazy out. I mean, we know all this happens, but I've never come across someone who's willing to speak so openly and loudly about it. So share more.
so basically, there's an intercity bus stand which is on the outskirts of Islamabad. And what happens there is the system setup is basically that, there are these pimps who are looking out for boys who have run away from home and come, or who have come to the city in search of work, vulnerable boys. They'll grab them, they'll say, come on, we'll look after you, we'll give you a job, we'll give you a place to stay. So that's how they sort of pick up these boys. A lot of these boys, we found out, because we did manage to interview them also, um, were coming from families where, uh, you know, they had run away from their situations. They were either coming from extreme poverty, or they were coming from places where there were houses where they were being beaten a lot. The father was an alcoholic. He was, or there was a lot of trouble in the house. Children, so or there were too many children. There was not enough to go around. Um, sort of unstable families, and then these guys here at the bus stand were honing into that kind of a child who needed support, was vulnerable, and picking them up basically, and then slowly putting them into it. Would usually start with a client raping a boy, and then the children being told, oh, well, now your sexuality is all destroyed, your masculinity has been, has gone to hell, so you may as well continue doing this. And then, of course, the lure of money.
Yes.
Uh, so there were all kinds of, there were boys, from, I think the youngest boy we came across was nine, oh, 9, 8, 9 years old.
Mhm.
And then they went up to around, even 15, 16.
Wow.
Uh, and there were all kinds of clients. There was everyone, anyone moving through that bus stand. And like I said, it was an intercity bus stand, so there were a lot of people moving through that area on a daily basis. Anyone and everyone was accessing those children. Um, so there was a whole mafia obviously around those children. We were snooping around in there, trying to get information out. Our researchers ended up getting shot at. We had all kinds of threats coming into the office. um, so there was a lot of intensity around that project of ours. um, and then generally the work, we also see, I needed something holistic. So I we were doing awareness raising, we were researching the issue, we were doing legal aid and counseling, and we were training groups like teachers, etc., to be able to take the issue to kids. So we were trying to cover all bases, and it was all intense because we were a small group initially. I didn't get any huge amount of funding. My first funding for SILE was sum of 7 lakh rupees, and I mean now it's national, and it's got many offices and all of that. But that was my initial. We were a small office with a few staff members, and basically one person literally in every program. We were around a group of maybe four, 6 people for the first year, and by this end of that year, we'd gone into Peervadai and maybe added a few more members to the staff. So there was a small group of us. We were taking on huge amounts, um, because we were getting into the legal aid, etc. We were experiencing threats and pressure from abusers. We were experiencing all of this mafia in uh, which was coming at us from the child prostitution trade. um, and then just taking the issue and going out and trying to get people to start to talk about it, listen to it. And there was, I mean, we did things like, we decided, okay, we need to know how do mothers feel about child sexual abuse. So we couldn't think of doing anything else other than, because it was kind of difficult to go into institutions and tell people to let us talk about this issue. So we actually went house to house, um, knocking on doors
In
with questions.
Islamabad.
Yeah, in Islamabad,
Wow.
and we went house to house and across the income groups, and we spoke to mothers in their homes and said, we need to ask you. And people were good, we people obliged us. So then the biggest, one of the other things that we realized very, very quickly on when we started working on this was we did not have a language, Saima, to address this issue with. Because either what you had in Urdu was really technical words which were not understood, or you had 3 categories of language actually, or you had the abusive language regarding the body, or the third kind of language you had was the one which was full of secrecy and shame.
Yeah.
So, we were like, okay, this is a huge challenge. How do we begin to address this issue? We're not going to use the abusive language. We're not going to, that. intensely technical language is, something which no one really understands. No one's really heard it. Uh, and we can't use the language of secrecy and shame because that kind of defeats the purpose. What are we going to do? So we also did a very interesting. I mean, whilst we were talking to these mothers, we also started speaking to them about language,
Hmm.
and trying to figure out, okay, what was the best way to address this. And of course, then as we began to, so we began to uncover all these issues that, I mean, it all starts with creating so much discomfort around a body for children. We don't even want to name their body parts to them, you know. Where are we going to end up? Where are we going to address abuse? We don't want to address the body per se
Yes.
as with children. And if we do address it, then we're filling it with shame. That's basically what we're doing. We're telling them your private parts are shameful. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to discuss them. We'll call them all kinds of names, but we won't address their functions. We won't address, uh, so
So how do you? I mean, you don't want to talk about sex. You don't want to tell the child that this is acceptable and this is not acceptable. If someone does this, then that is wrong. All these things which are all
how are
connected
you going
to.
to protect your child? You're not going to be able to. How
Yeah.
can you? And if you're not going to end up with a culture of secrecy and shame, what else are you going to end up with?
Yeah.
So, it all began to, these were things which I was also learning along the way, because, as you start doing something, it's only then when you understand all the dynamics of it. So, uh, these were the sort of simple yet challenging things that we began with. And, but at the same time, like I was telling you earlier, that at the same time, there was a lot there was a lot of gratitude too for the information that we were now bringing to people. There was a lot of gratitude also that someone was willing to talk about these things. That someone was, coming in and saying, okay, look, here's what we can do. Here's how we can address this. Maybe you can try this.
Because a lot of people experience this abuse, right? I mean, but there's just so much hush hush. There, tutors, these safe environments where where parents would leave their child, and then you just don't realize what is going on with a trusted person, someone close to you that you would never doubt or you would never suspect,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Those were the other myths that needed to be broken. So, so many things, one was trying to do so many things simultaneously. Our newspapers, especially the vernacular, had a dreadful way of reporting child sexual abuse cases. It would start with something like, he was overcome by Satan.
Okay. And who? Oh God,
Or
overcome.
it would always be nashe mein dhut,
Yeah,
drunk out of his mind, he went and abused. So it was always either you were the devil, so you were sexually abusing children, or you were, drunk. I mean, it was never in your control, okay?
yeah,
So we also intensely got into sensitizing the media. We started a child-friendly newspaper award, where we would give the newspaper which did the most sensitized reporting an award at the end of the year. We'd monitor all the papers, and
yeah.
we began to slowly see a trend, a shifting, trend in how they were reporting cases then on CSA. But I'm just trying to tell you that there was just no consciousness or awareness at so many levels,
Yeah.
the way,
Yeah.
from the way you spoke about it to the, or you didn't speak about it, to the way you reported it, to the way you understood it, to, I mean, it was just, it was like I mean, at one level it was very exciting because it was like an open field, every you there was just so much to learn, so much to understand, and uh, so much possibility,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So then at another level, it was intense, traumatic, exhausting work
Of
also.
course. I mean, you're in this field where there's no precedent, and you're going against the mafia, and you're going against all kinds of odds,
Yeah,
barriers. Nobody wants to discuss these things because they are such a hush hush subject. Nobody wants to talk about the sexual aspect of things, the physical abuse of things, the body parts. You're breaking all these stereotypes to pave your way through all these taboo issues to create awareness, and on top of that you're trying to help people who are actually being abused.
yeah, it was intense, and then being single and uh, young and doing that work was also not,
And beautiful.
thank you.
So
So,
at what stage is the organization right now, at this point?
so currently it's now Sahil, I think, has four regional offices now. They do a lot of work. They have expanded to include other issues now of child abuse. Um, they I think have a staff of nearly maybe 100 odd people now.
Oh,
So
wow.
so
What
so
a journey.
they're doing very well, and
Awesome.
yeah, I
Awesome.
am very, very proud of, very.
Mashallah. Yes. And so you should be. What a milestone. What an achievement, Anusha. And
Thank
that's just one aspect of what you started. And now, tell me real quick, what kind of role did India play in helping you uh, grow your organization?
So, because there was no precedence, Sama, I began to look in the neighborhood, for any organization which would help uh, come in, train our staff, where I could go and, see how they were doing things, the kinds of challenges they had come up against, etc. I could get training. So, um, as luck would have it, was coming. Someone knew a friend of mine knew an organization in Delhi, which was doing about to have a 10-day residential workshop on sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that, she said, why don't you come along? एंड आई थॉट ओके, और उस वीज़ा भी मिल गया और इनवाइट भी मिल गई. So I came and I attended that, and it was this intense, personalized sort of journey through discovering your own sexualization, looking at your traumas, your conditioning, everything under the sun. And I was just like, wow, if one is going to do this kind of work, this is the kind of training everyone who works in your organization has to go through. Because there is no way that you can uh, work on these issues without visiting and resolving or beginning to heal your own issues. And all of us have to have had issues
Yeah.
growing up in a closed environment like that. And then, of course, our personal experiences in childhood, etc., we all come with so
Yes.
much
And that's what the journey is, right? That's what our soul is searching for. This internal crisis that we face, because the soul wants to feel that there's something worthy, something of value, something. I mean, compared to you, I tell people my podcast, which I started like a year ago, started changing my life because it was connected to the soul. It was fulfillment. It was searching, trying to find those try soul searching, right? And bringing in people and learning from their journeys and taking some in and absorbing it and helping yourself with your own growth and fulfillment. And I mean, that's what life is about, right?
Absolutely, Saima, and I can look back and say for sure that, people say, oh, and then you did this for that, and you did this, now you're doing this for the dogs, and then you did that for people. And I feel no, I don't, my focus has never really been on how I did this for X and did that for Y. My focus has always been, wow, you know, I learned so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
and I grew so much with it.
You're doing it for your soul, for your
Yes,
inner
truly,
fulfillment.
you are. And somewhere I think if you acknowledge that, A, it keeps you from that, bad pit of arrogance and having a holier than thou attitude.
Absolutely. And
And you get the
sorry, go
most
ahead.
value out of it.
Yes, yes. I mean, absolutely. You, what you're doing, you're putting the message out there. Your message. We are, together we are putting it out there. We are creating more awareness for what you're doing. But that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is what your journey is doing for me. What your journey is doing for my soul.
Absolutely.
My growth, my inner
Yes.
peace. Right.
Yes. Such, I was thinking about that yesterday, actually. I was thinking about your podcast, and I thought, because you're also someone who's really wise and is looking for things to, grab and run with. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, I know that you know this, that, we end up, what the things we end up doing actually serve us in so many different ways.
Absolutely. It's not for someone else. It is
No, it's
literally
not for
for
someone else.
yourself.
Yeah.
It's for
I mean, I
yourself.
started off with a history of child sexual abuse, right? And for me, the entire work became a journey of self healing.
Yes.
And I was very
Absolutely.
aware about that also, that when I started Sahil, I was very aware that there was a part of me which wanted to put it out there and in everyone's face like
Yes.
that, because I knew what having to be silent, and within my kind of a sort of, I came from a liberal family, but even I didn't feel that I could address it for the longest time, or
Yeah.
bring it up for the longest time.
I mean, nobody can.
Yeah, so I was like, what about all the other people then?
Yeah.
So I was very aware that I was doing Sahil to for myself also.
Yeah.
It was,
Absolutely.
and I wanted to keep that in focus for the simple reason that I also did not want that emotion should lead to some kind of uh, distortion in how I did things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're
That
not
I
doing it for sympathy or for it's like
somehow, bringing in your own
yeah.
unresolved issues into a space.
Yes. You
And a lot of us sometimes end up doing that because we're
yeah.
doing things which we have not healed ourselves from.
Yeah.
We end up taking those issues into our work, and that never works out for anyone, not for you and not for your clientele. So,
Absolutely. You're wanting
that's
to
why it
take
was
the
really
strength.
important. Sorry?
You're wanting to take the strength, and you're wanting to take the courage, and you're wanting to take all
Yeah.
these positive things from it to build it into something bigger, instead of taking the negative aspects of things and staying in that victim mode forever.
Yes, and realizing that, you're not someone there who's sort of there to conduct the journey for, everyone else. You're someone there to be a part of that journey
Yeah, be a
because you
propellant.
need it as much as if anyone else does.
Absolutely.
That was
And
a very important thing for me to keep in focus for myself. And I don't know, I really can't tell you how I stumbled upon that
yeah,
as an idea, even, but uh,
it was meant to be.
it was a blessing. Yeah, it was a blessing to
Absolutely.
have that thought throughout. So
Absolutely.
with that, in mind, I really wanted the best of training for my staff. I wanted my staff to have to go deep, into their own issues, look at them, be aware of them, and then move into the field, and it was very, very interesting because I'll send you a copy of the research that we did on male child prostitution. I have a whole chapter in there on what happened to the male researchers who were going into that area.
Wow.
And
I think that right there needs to be a completely separate podcast. And we bring this to light and we talk about this male child
sure,
prostitution.
sure. And that was so important. These workshops that ended up happening, and this organization that helped me with the staff, etc., it was so important because it developed that kind of a rapport between me and my staff, where the guys could come back and say, look, I need to discuss this. I'm beginning to feel like I'm being pulled into this feeling of wanting to have sexual intercourse with these kids myself. I need to be able to discuss this. I'm being pulled. I feel like I'm being pulled towards this.
Wow.
So so much. There's just so much there.
We're trying to kind of encapsulate your
Too much. We're
your
trying to
25
encapsulate.
years of grueling hard work and research and all into this 1 hour, and I know that's not possible. And so I think we'll talk later and we'll see how we can maybe next month come back and just focus on the male child prostitution and abuse, and just on that issue, and bring more of it to light. But
Yeah.
Anushi, since this is just about you and your journey, so of course we are in the last 6 minutes of the show, and I know we haven't really done justice to so much information and knowledge that you have acquired, but we do have to talk about your photography. And I have to tell you that when I shared with the CGM, our school group, and I told one of the groups that, hey, Anusha is going to be coming on. So I know you know Shamila, and Shamila came and told everyone that, hey guys, you all got to go and follow Anusheh Hussain photography on Instagram, because Anusheh's photography is literally what National Geographic photography is like, and you need to follow her because her photography is just so brilliant. And people don't even know all these other this other aspect of your brilliant life and the change that you have brought about, and your strength and your resilience. And what I mean, going from 6 7 people, starting this NGO where you yourself were in chaos, and you instead of becoming completely destructive, you channeled all your thoughts and your energy into building something so phenomenal, this NGO called Sahil, and just just turning it into this phenomenal organization, which is now has 100 people working in it. Uh, what a journey. But we have to now talk about a little bit, give a few minutes to your photography. What made you turn into a photographer, Anusha? Because your photography is brilliant.
Thank you so much. No, I just want to say one thing that, uh, you know, all credit for the rest of Sahil's journey goes to my mother, who actually then took over Sahil.
Okay.
And continued it, and bringing it to this space at this level and doing all this national work is all to her credit. um, Photography, just so I love animals, I love nature. I always, I was dabbling in photography a little, and then my family gave me a birthday gift couple of years ago of sending me to Africa. And that's where I went to Africa, if you believe, with a mobile phone. That's all I had to take pictures with. And I landed up in Masai Mara and Nakuru and all these places, in these wildlife parks. And I would see people standing there with these big lenses, and I was like, no, what is this? I can't do this.
And just 2 years ago.
This was, yeah, just 2 years ago, and it took me sort of. I came back, took me another year to buy a DSLR, but I was always into photography. But I love animals, Saima, and I feel, especially after my entire work with dogs, I just feel that uh, animals are so close to my heart,
Yeah.
and what we're doing with them is just
Yeah.
so, and we are just
And we
not
see
aware.
that.
I
We see that in
started.
Pakistan. What we have seen growing up, having what how we witness, the stray dogs and the donkeys, the way the donkeys are treated.
we,
I mean,
we are particularly, we're particularly, I mean, in India, there's a lot of compassion still for animals. You come across a lot of compassion, but I have seen a lot of hard heartedness and cruelty. I don't know if it comes from being a meat eating nation or what it is. But
yeah,
there's an insensitivity to animals, and it's true what Gandhi said, that the way you treat your animals, the powerless sections of your society, your animals, your children, they really tell you who you are. Anyway, so that just, it became a passion, and I love being out in the forest. You can just leave me there with a camera, never come home. But
we have
uh,
seen that, and once again, I would like to just tell everyone that, hey, follow Anushe on Instagram, Anushe Hussain. I hope I've spelled that right, Anushe.
yeah, it's
Anushe.
AIM, but that's fine. Anushya Hussain, it's AIM.
Oh, okay. I will fix that in just a second. But follow her, and her photography is brilliant, and that's the least we can do here. Hopefully that's correct now. So just
Yes.
fix that. So, but Anushe, we literally are coming to an end, and I know I kind of rushed through your photography, and I rushed through some of the stuff, but. Mashallah, you're a wealth of knowledge now with so much, and I love to just learn, and I just love to, soak in all this positive energy from my guests, and I'm in awe of the amazing work that you have done and how you've dedicated your life into doing something just which is so soul worthy and just so amazing. um, I would like to hand over the screen to you one more time and tell people where they can find your organization if they would like to contribute to your organization or do something with your NGO, or in Islamabad or in Delhi where you are, or how people can reach out and get in touch with you for anything. So here you go.
Thanks. Sahil has a website. It's sahil.org, and a lot of our research is also available on it for people to read. There's a lot of stuff you can get right off there. All contact details, etc., would be on it. Um, Indigree Angels Trust has an Instagram and a Facebook page. It's Indigree as opposed to pedigree, because we're basically talking about the Indian dog. Um, and it, you'll be able to get, see what the kind of work we do from there. Um, so that's those are the two ways you can access us.
Fabulous. And Anushe, thank you for being here. I'm going to remove you from the stream and
Thank
I'm
you,
going to
Saima. Thank you so much. It's been so good to see you and
absolutely
chat.
and
And we
absolutely
must
we sure
chat
will.
again.
We absolutely we sure will, and we'll bring you back so we can talk about some more of the issues. So I'm going to remove you and thank you for being
Thank
here. It
you.
was a
Thank
true
you.
pleasure, Anushe.
Thank you.
Well, friends, thank you for being here and thank you for watching the show. When I started Heart to Heart with Saima, it was totally about my own soul searching process and finding ways to do different things and to help myself and to help my loved ones. And you show your appreciation for the show, and I'm totally I'm so obliged and I'm so filled with gratitude for that. So thank you for watching. If something in the show touches your heart and if you feel you resonate with something, do share it. Share it on your social media or share it with anyone who might need or any help or who might be able to contribute towards the betterment. So thank you for being here. Signing off. This is Simon Dillon. Have an awesome day.